We are so excited now to bring a new regular segment here on the Splash Live. Every so often, we will have a very special guest joining us to teach us how to make exciting recipes and give us tips on fueling our bodies properly. Without further ado, joining us now is Nichole Ferguson to teach us how to put a twist on Sylvan Table's coffee cream bread pudding. Nichole, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Hello, good morning. Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this segment.
I know, it's awesome. We did a little test run before today's show with your different camera angles. So let's get into it. Nichole, will you tell us what we'll be learning how to make today?
We're doing a mashup of bread pudding, kind of cups or even a loaf. So I always still try to be very, very conscious, especially when having dessert, that we can always go to like using muffin pans. So we only get maybe about 4 ounces of dessert. So it's almost automatically portion control. But my little boy was so excited when I made these. I started making them in little ramen cups. They're a little bit bigger than the 4-ounce portions, but he can handle it. It's the only dessert that he still requests. So I'm really excited about making it today. And I'm so, I just want to say a special thank you to Sylvan Table and Kay for sharing the recipe. They were just so generous with sharing the recipe. When my girlfriend brought me a little something back after I did some babysitting for her, I was just so enthralled with the muffins that I went on this search of trying to do a mashup of recipes. So that's what we're doing today. I'm kind of mixing the recipes together.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. What are some of the first things that we need to know when starting to make this recipe?
So at Sylvan Table, they used a homemade, and one thing I really appreciate about them, they use locally produced, ethically raised, and everything they do. They've made me a little bit more intentional about how I'm cooking, how I want to cook, how I want to express. So they used a sweet bread, and I'm using a brioche. So I got my brioche, and you can use rolls. I've substituted this recipe with brioche rolls, hot dog rolls, anything and everything brioche. And you can also, you can also mix it in with something like artisanal bread or something like that as well, if that's what you have. But whatever you have on file at home is just fine. I just took some of the rolls and just by hand, just nice rough cut with my fingers. And this is great for kids, getting kids to cook in the kitchen. I love having my kids in here with me.
Yeah, an easy task that they can do.
An easy, ripping up stuff.
Yes.
My kids do a really good job with ripping things up and tearing things up. So the recipe calls for about 4 cups, but I kind of just eyeball everything. And if I have if the loaf is 16 ounces, that's what I kind of go for. So after the rough, on a baking sheet, 300 degrees, nice low temperature for about 20 minutes. And those go in the oven. And then the magic of TV, they come out kind of like this. So like I said, I have 2 loaf pans. And one's a loaf pan and the other one are ramekins. And by the way, so I'm getting ready the mixture together for to pour on top of the crusty bread. And this is like my own spin. And I will always recommend, I ran out of milk this morning. So I will always recommend evaporated milk in your pantry. So you always have like a backup, and it's like 2 cups. And I'm just starting that with some melted butter. Now, one of the recipes that I looked at called for buttermilk. Now, keep in mind, buttermilk, you don't have to go out and buy it. You can just have milk and just put a little bit of lemon. Just put a little lemon in there, and that'll thicken it up just like buttermilk.
Okay.
And one of the deviations from Sylvan Table's recipe, instead of eggs, they use egg yolks, which of course makes everything like really, really rich. And keep in mind, I am so not a baker. I'm just like a really savory person. So um, getting all these little tips and tricks is great. And then instead of, you can use brown sugar. I'm using brown sugar in the glaze that goes on top of the bread pudding.
Okay.
I'm using organic cane sugar. So I'm mixing that. And we have vanilla extract. And I knew there was something special about Sylvan Tables, their bread pudding, because I'm like, what is that? There's something else that's there. And it's Bailey's Irish cream.
Oh, okay.
So that is fabulous, but I couldn't find Bailey's, but I found some Godiva.
Ooh, even better.
No harm, no foul. And I guess if you're cooking, you can always have a little sample in your coffee. I think that's always acceptable.
You need to taste everything before it goes in.
You need to taste everything before it kind of goes in. So, and I also thought it had some really warm notes. So I'm adding some nutmeg, just a little bit, just a splash.
Okay.
And some cinnamon. And that makes it really, really fun there with the spices. So I got my cast of characters and I'm just mixing away. And so I have this nice liquid, this unctuous liquid to pour over my bread pudding. Now, even when I've, the recipes that I've looked at and I compared online, all of them call for soaking the bread for about a couple of hours. I've even done mine overnight, but I'll show you the preparation. So I've mixed that up nicely. And I have my little scoop that I'm going to use. So before I add my liquid, I'm going to go back to the cutting board, and I'm using praline pecans.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just adding a little. I'm going to call myself adding some protein to to dessert. It makes me feel better about eating it or pushing it on my kids.
Yeah.
That they get to have a little extra protein as part of their dessert. So maybe that they can have it in the morning. So I just dice those up, and I'm just gonna put them in the middle here. Just kind of mix it all around.
Give it a little extra
and
crunch.
Here, a little extra crunch, a little extra. Praline, that's a little extra sugar in there too, but I always say you can't outrun a bad diet, but we shouldn't be denying ourselves those pleasures, especially something so special. You find a dessert that really catches your eye, that's not just pure sugar, but that has real depth of flavor. This is it.
Yeah.
This is the way to go.
And this looks like a recipe too that you would be able to, if you don't like pecans, putting in some other types of nuts, or if you have a dietary restriction, maybe using oat milk or something like that. So you can kind of mix and match it to kind of meet your dietary needs.
And that's the great thing about this recipe. It is so versatile. Even with the bread you can use, this was really meant. This recipe was meant for like stale bread.
Yeah. Day old
bread, and it can just absorb everything. And even, I'm sure if we played around, we could probably make this a savory version as well.
Yeah.
And I do have some. Another way I'm going to kind of help myself eat more dessert, I have some dark chocolate chips. So I have dark chocolate chips, and
nice.
I won't put them in all of them, but I'll just kind of do a sprinkle, just a little bit, so everything is like, that chocolate kind of sinks in there.
A little extra surprise.
A little extra surprise. This is, literally, this is, my husband and my daughter love sweets. They can't get enough of sweets, so I don't have them in the house that often. But my son, who's a thinnest, he doesn't like sweets at all. So he actually asked me for this recipe the other day. So he has been asking for it. And right now I'm just pouring our liquid mixture of the the buttermilk, or my version of buttermilk, the cane sugar, the vanilla, the cinnamon. I'm just pouring that in those egg yolks. I'm pouring that right over my bread.
Nice. And I
And this is
mean,
gonna
you make
be-
it look so easy, but there's really not much to it as long as you have all the components.
If I can bake it, and I'm not a baker, now I can do a 15-pound brisket.
Yeah.
I can do, I've done beef Wellington before. I've gone the gambit with what I will cook and serve, and dessert is not my thing. I buy dessert, but this is so easy, and it's so tasty.
Yeah.
I mean, what could be? It's bread and butter. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah.
So this is gonna soak,
Okay.
and then we're going to bake it. And I don't have one of these already baked, or I would have ate it. So here we go. It's gonna soak, and after it soaks, we're gonna put it in the oven for about 35 minutes. Just gonna stick this in the oven. There we go. And then when it comes out, it's going to be all nice and bubbly. And then that's when we have our glaze here. And our glaze is brown sugar, maple syrup. And I do, now I do have syrup for the kids, which comes in like a plastic container.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost very much. And then I have the syrup when I really cook, the very expensive syrup. So I usually get mine from Aldi, has good prices on like pure maple syrup. And this is maple syrup time. So I do encourage you, Michigan State, out on Meadowbrook Road, they have a great maple sugaring program also. And I got mine at Trader Joe's yesterday. So
Perfect. So if you have somewhere
You want the good
local,
stuff.
yeah, if you have somewhere local around here, maple sugaring is happening all around Michigan now. So if you have a place where you can get your hands on some local stuff, but Trader Joe's has a good maple syrup as well.
They have a really good maple syrup, but all of March, I believe, is maple. They're having sugar events all over the Tri-County area.
Yes.
So I'm just going to go off camera, and I'm going to get the good stuff, which my kids will eat anything with cream.
Perfect.
So after it comes out from baking, and we have our glaze, we're going to pour our glaze over the bread pudding, and then we're going to serve with this. So I'm going to pretend like it already is. So I'm going to just get a little sampling here of it, because I think it's so good and so tasty. Now keep in mind, we put it in the oven just enough to get all of the eggs to cook, because it is like a custard. So we would do a portion.
And Nichole, we only have a couple of seconds left too.
Okay, cool.
But
so this would be my portion, so to speak.
Oh, perfect.
And then I would put the glaze over it. A little bit goes a long way. And then I would top it off. Oh, if I can get that off. With whipped cream. And then I would do a little bit of a sprinkle
Oh, perfect.
of cinnamon.
Awesome.
Ta-da!
Well, Nichole, we're gonna wrap up here, but we appreciate you joining us, and enjoy that tomorrow when it's done cooking.
I will. It's so much fun. Thank you for having me. And again, I really appreciate Sylvan Table for inspiring me and sharing the recipe with me.